This is the Lincoln Journal Star editorial board endorsement interview with Scott Zimmerman, Libertarian candidate for governor. Scott, thank you very much for being with us. For our readers, I'm going to first have Kent introduce himself, and then since you're the guest of honor, we'll turn it over to you then. But Kent.
Yeah, I'm Kent Walgamot, and I'm the arts and entertainment writer at the paper. And for the purposes of this, I've been on the editorial board for more than a decade. So I've been through a few of these.
He's seen it all. So
been through a lot.
All right. So Scott, we've got a series of questions for you. The first one is kind of an introductory one. If you briefly want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then the where we'd like to head is why you want this office, why you want to be governor, and what experiences and attributes qualify you for that position. So introduction, sure, and then launch right into it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, first of all, for making the time and including me in this process, you guys. It's important in the political cycle for voters to have access to all candidates and all possible options that they have on their ballot. So my name is Scott Zimmerman. I am a teacher by trade. I'm a master's certified educator. I teach elementary school. I've done that now for 4 years. I'm a husband, father, and a grandfather. Nebraska born and raised here, lifetime Nebraskan. And, I have spent a lot of time in the political world over the last 10, 11 years, helping grow and develop a third party here in the state, the Libertarian Party of Nebraska, starting with securing ballot access so we could run candidates, as well as then ensuring that we always were accessible to voters through the cycle. As chairman, 2.5-term chairman of the state party of Nebraska, we experienced exponential growth. When I stepped into the Libertarian Party, we originally only had about 1,000 registered voters, and then by the time I left, we were creeping up to about 40,000 registered voters in the state over the course of 10 years. So that let me know that there was kind of a need and a desire from voters to have a third option beyond the red and blue, the two old parties, as I like to call them, kind of a middle of the road process. From a political perspective, I think my desire to run for governor essentially was rooted in a frustration with the current political climate, which really had started many years ago, but was magnified and amplified during the 2020 cycle. And I just felt that Nebraskans deserve better than politics as usual. I think it was time for just a regular individual to be able to step up and provide something that we don't currently see, which is a representation of the average working Nebraskan, working class Nebraskan, somebody there. So as far as attributes that I bring to the table prior to being in education, making the decision to jump into educating young children, I worked in sales leadership, and training and development. I do have over 25 years of management and leadership experience in a variety of different industries. And each and one of those experiences, I excelled at building highly effective teams and retaining talented individuals in roles so that they could be successful at what they were asked to do. Ultimately, it comes down to putting the right people in the right places at the right time to the best job that can be done. From a governor perspective, from a leadership perspective in the state, that means not pulling favors for my aligned political party. If an individual is best qualified to manage a department or run an effort, that individual will be the one to be selected for that role. Find a way to create some cohesion and to bring people together. And instead of focusing on things that we can never agree on, let's focus on those majority of things that we can agree on, and let's move Nebraska forward. So that was my primary focus.
All right. Well, thanks, Scott. We were joined by Martha Ellen Florence. Martha is a community member, been on our editorial board for Well, it was supposed to be just a year, but it's gone on like 5 years now. We just can't say goodbye. So, and she has graciously agreed to stay on here. And Scott, there may be some, Martha may have or Kent may have a follow-up question on some of these, but sort of your answer on the last one sort of led into our second question. Our nation seems like a divided nation. Our state feels like a divided state. How do you represent, can you represent constituents who see things differently than you?
You know, one of my greatest strengths is an ability to listen to understand and to try and meet people where they are and get a good determination of where they're coming from and what their motivations are. I've been all over the state for the last 2 years. I've been traveling east to west, west to east, north to south, trying to meet with as many people as possible. And what I'm finding is while we do have some different perspectives on how things should be accomplished, we all agree that something needs to be done. So when it comes time to represent the constituents of Nebraska from a leadership perspective, I'll commit to being accessible and open to conversations and hearing feedback. And again, focusing on the things that can be accomplished with very little, kind of build momentum towards let's start attacking some of the bigger challenges or the bigger issues that we are facing. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, did you need to go on? Because I'm ready to go on to some of those bigger issues.
Go ahead.
All right. So next one is, so immigration is largely a federal issue. It's been a state issue. Gubernatorial candidates have brought it up. It's been in the legislature. In terms of what the state can do, what would be your priorities? What would be the solutions that you would look for in fixing immigration in Nebraska?
Sure. Ultimately, here in the United States, we are a nation of immigrants, and immigration has driven our culture, our society, our economy. Without immigrants, we would virtually have nothing in the United States. So we are here now. When you're crossing over legal versus illegal immigration, one of the things I struggle with in my own mind is criminalizing an individual simply based on where their feet are planted. I don't want to say, okay, you're here, you're illegal, I'm going to detain you and deport you. If they want to be here, if individuals want to contribute to Nebraska and be members of our society and contribute to our communities, there should be an easier pathway for them to do that. So my primary focus as governor would be empowering employers to be at the forefront of the immigration process so that if an individual wants to get a job, they can then work with that employer to become a recognized citizen or a recognized resident of our state to start with, and then begin the process of citizenship. I think the more people I've talked to that are here illegally, that are not, they're scared. They're afraid to come forward. They're afraid. I've been here 6 months. I've been here 3 years. They don't want to step forward out of fear of what repercussions they would incur. You know, am I going to be taken away from my family? Am I going to be deported? Am I going to be imprisoned? And we need to soften that blow. We need to make it appealing. And we need to make it a lot easier for them to follow through with the legal process. Everybody needs to be documented. We need to know who's living here. But we need to make it attractive.
All right.
Let's move that process forward.
Okay, you hung up there, but I think we got the gist. So next question for you. Accusations of voter fraud have they've caused many to doubt the integrity of the election process. This is a little bit different for you since you are neither a Republican nor a Democrat, but what would you do if you were pressured to play a role in overturning an election? And do you think that more protections are needed either on the side of voter rights or on the side of vote security?
Sure. So one of the things that I first and foremost, when we first started hearing about voter integrity and voter fraud, I really looked at it, and there are validity statements on both sides. There's valid points of views on both sides, but I do feel like it is a political wedge issue designed to divide voters. I really do feel like that is very driving behind the focus on protection. That is our insurance, that we are putting the right people in the right places. So we need to make sure that we are 100% holding those election commissioners accountable within their own counties. I don't necessarily say, okay, we need to have voter ID or any of those things. I think we are in 2022. It's 2022. The technology exists. There is no reason why a voter ballot cannot have some kind of personalized QR code on it, so that
Scott, we lost you again. You're frozen up.
should be subject.
Scott, can you hear me?
fully accountable to the law. They should be held accountable to the law. And again, I apologize. I'm having some latency issues, you guys. How much of my answers you're getting?
I'd say we got about 35% there. Is there a quick Cliff Note version you can give again?
Yes, individualized ballots should have some type of identifying marker on them, a serial code, a QR code that can be scanned, and once that has been scanned, no more votes for that voter can be counted. That's just that, to me, that seems like the safest, easiest way to do it. The technology exists; we can make that happen.
Okay. The Supreme Court has thrown the issue of abortion back to the states. Undoubtedly, it will be an important issue for the legislature, the governor. Describe your views on prohibiting or limiting or not limiting abortion in Nebraska.
Okay. Personally, on a personal level, I am 100% pro-life. That is me personally. On the flip side of the coin, I am also 100% anti-medical mandates provided by a government entity. I don't believe the government should be in charge of making life and death decisions regarding humans. And all these highly personal medical decisions, whether it is abortion or any other medical concern for that matter, should be discussed and handled through a medical professional, and those decisions should be made between a doctor and its patient. And doctors, we can't limit doctors' ability to perform or have access to all medical options that are available to provide a good quality way of life for human beings. With that being said, I would not ban abortion per se. However, I would put emphasis on education and awareness in our communities and in our state on viable options beyond abortion. I find that many people that seek abortion as an option are doing so as an act of shame or as an act of, I can't tell people, this is too much. But you can't make a law, you can't legislate morality. So when it comes to an individual that is told by their doctor that if you carry this child to term, you're going to die, and leaving them no alternative, that really puts us in a poor spot. Criminalizing individuals for seeking medical care, it puts us in a dangerous spot when you're putting government in charge of those types of controls. I adamantly believe that abortions for profit should not exist. Clinics like Planned Parenthood should not be able to provide abortions. All medical procedures of that nature should be done through an authorized state hospital facility.
Okay, this one ought to be interesting. The legislature is allegedly nonpartisan. There's talk about scrapping nonpartisanship. What do you think?
No, I think Nebraska is a very unique opportunity for nonpartisanship. The fact that we have a nonpartisan unicameral sets us up for a tremendous opportunity to cross the aisle to work together. I personally, I don't want to know if my legislator is a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian. I just want to know that they're going to represent the people. And what happens when you get the politics involved, you get the political ping pong match, the polarized nation of issues, and then nothing's getting accomplished. I'm going to camp out over here, you're going to camp over there, and we're never going to meet in the middle because I don't like your side of, I don't like your team. So staying nonpartisan is 100% necessary for us to be successful in Nebraska, because I think, although historically we have been primarily a Republican state, more and more people are swaying away from the old party systems. They're seeing that the 156-year-old two-party political ping pong match that's going on is not accomplishing the things that they say they can, and people need to know that they have access to true representation. So.
All right, so I know Kent's got a couple of questions. Martha, you might too. Do you have any right off the top of your head? If not, I'll go to Kent and then I'll check back with you. All right, Kent.
All right, we can either do this in the lightning round form where I ask you 3 at once, or we can separate them out. How do you want to do it?
Well, we got a little bit of time, but not too much time. So why don't you do them separately, just so that we get the
Okay.
ground covered.
I ask about specific issues here. First, the water projects that have been sort of approved, I guess you would say. The canal in the southwest and the lake between Lincoln and Omaha. What are your views on those and whether they should continue?
You know, I think when looking at those projects, I don't see it as a benefit to Nebraska. I know they are kind of pitching it as tourism and bring people to our state and those kind of things. I really see it as an opportunity for, again, one of the reasons why I ran for governor at this point was seeing the elite class protect the elite class, the wealthy, the well-to-do, taking care of each other. And that's ultimately what we're doing here. We're shaking hands, we're making deals behind the scenes. And ultimately, I feel like those funds, those resources could be better suited in other arenas, infusing some of our struggling communities with economic opportunities, helping create jobs and opportunities. I think our community, our society, and our economy would benefit more from individuals having opportunities in their local communities than having a lake that only a small percentage of Nebraskans will ever even have an opportunity to experience.
Round two, Kent.
Issue number 2, construction of a new prison outside of replacing the old penitentiary, which may in fact be outdated and need to be replaced.
We absolutely do not need a new prison in our state. We need to reevaluate the imprisonment of our population. We are currently sitting, last I checked, it was like 100 and almost 150% capacity of the prisons, and the majority, almost 70% of them, are in there for non-violent offenses. So when you look at prisons should be reserved for the most violent, threatening individuals in our society. And if we scale back the incarceration rate in our state, we won't need that space. We won't need to expand. We will have an opportunity now to house people that are a direct threat to society in incarceration environments, and those that are nonviolent offenders, we can work towards rehabilitating and getting them back as contributing members of our society.
And then my third one is the tough one. It's property tax and essentially the whole state tax structure that has come to be so reliant on property tax over the last 20 years.
What a tangled mess that is, too. There are so many, I like to say, webs coming off of the property tax structure that it would literally take at least a decade to see any true improvement, in my opinion. We need to start by looking first and foremost at what the biggest burdens on that property tax structure are. And then we need to start peeling that back. We need to start dialing it back, starting with things like education. Education, the cost of educating children in our state is so interestingly high for the quality of education that we're receiving. I think we could reevaluate that and restructure our investment in public education. We have to have it, but I think we can do a better job at it. For me, property taxes, well, what I would do is look at the budget line items that are attached to that and evaluate their necessity. Do we need them attached to property tax? Is there an alternate way to do that? Whether it's through recreational taxes, whether it's through tourism money, whether it's through entertainment taxes, those types of things. I think when you balance it out, um, and if we are able to do what I set out to do, which is attracting bigger industries like professional sports to Nebraska, we will see a stimulation in our economy, which will then supplement the loss in property tax revenue. Long term, initially, I would see wanting to cut property tax expenses for individuals that are of retirement age, that do not have a lien on their property and are not using their properties for profit. They should not have a tax burden at the property tax level. And then beyond that, I would like to see a property tax system that is set at a percentage rate based on the purchase value of your property, and it doesn't fluctuate with the arbitrary rates that ebb and flow with the housing bubble and those kind of things. So long term, once your lien is paid, your mortgage your deed is in your hand, you should no longer have a property tax burden unless you're a rental property or you're growing crops or you're running a store. You're profiting on that property. That's where that income will come from. And like I said, to be able to supplement from entertainment and recreational and leisure taxes that we could incorporate into the budget to kind of close those gaps a little bit.
All right, Kent got his 3 questions in. Martha, do you have anything? You're muted right now.
Yeah, I have just a couple of quick questions in reference to Nebraskans and financial stability, because we've been through, all this craziness with COVID and farmers lost, everybody lost, but the people who were really mostly affected were low-income Nebraska family and you, as you would know, as an educator, children. Because there's a gap. So as governor, what would be your plan to, I guess, bring us back to a more stable base for our families, especially those who identify as low income?
Absolutely. So it starts with economic opportunities. It starts with being able to provide not only incentives, but resources available for people in struggling communities to open up businesses, to work, to live and work. I look at opportunities in education where students that are maybe in rural Nebraska don't have to necessarily be at school all day, every day. Once they've reached, age 16, maybe they can conduct their coursework after the farming hours so they can help out on the farm and at home. One of the areas of focus that I will 100% attack is the education process here in our state, and making sure that private education institutions have a free lane of opportunity in our state. So if you can bring vocational schools here, you can bring trade schools here, you can bring teacher colleges here, and you can train these professionals in our state. Now you are creating more job opportunities because businesses grow and develop where the source of their fodder comes from, for lack of a better term, where their employees are landed, where their employees are rooted. Nebraskans historically have some of the strongest work ethics in the country. And I feel like we could do a better job of, if we could bring a motorcycle mechanic school to Nebraska, guess what? There would be more motorcycle manufacturers in Nebraska. If we could bring an automotive mechanic school to Nebraska, there'll be more opportunity for automobile manufacturers in Nebraska. Those kind of, we have the resources, we have the place and the spaces for it. We just haven't done a very good job of attracting and retaining those types of businesses here in the state. So you talk about lower income, communities. Justin Wayne was a huge advocate for infusing those relief funds that came from the federal government into places like North Omaha and South Omaha, and fusing those communities. And to me, 100% the right move. You have to into those communities. These are people that are struggling just to food on their table. And if we could contribute to job creation and providing training opportunities for them to create new jobs and new careers, then they can go in and infuse our economy with the revenue that they're generating. If they make more, they're going to spend more, and that's just good economics.
Okay. And with that said, though, we as a state oftentimes are committed to preserving our rural communities. So how would you recommend that we support the creation of sort of a comprehensive long-term productivity plan for our farmers?
For the farmers, yeah.
For the
Again, for me, it's a multi-tiered approach. We have to get data resources out to them. They need to have high-speed internet. They need to have access to technology and be able to use those things. We also need to provide them with the resources that they need where they are. If they need a supply store in their area, we need to make sure that a business will have an opportunity and be incentivized to come and pop up shop in that area. So a farmer doesn't have to drive an hour to go get his seed. He can literally pick it up in his own backyard. That would be the focus. I would also step back government regulations on property. I would also step back government relations on meat production and transactions between private owners. A farmer that grows his crop in Nebraska here should be able to transact with another individual in the state of Nebraska without having to funnel through state level with all layers of regulation, with all the hands of bureaucracy in the process. It just adds to the cost of doing business, and it adds to the length of time from product to supplier.
Okay, we have jobs, we need jobs. The monopoly, but what if a monopoly controlled agriculture comes in? They're going to give us more jobs, but they're going to reduce the little man.
So you have to protect the little man. You have to, we are provide opportunities and competition. You look at what happened with, and I know maybe it's not a great example, but Dollar Generals, when they rolled into Nebraska and they set up shop in every small town, virtually every little mom and pop shop just got dried up because they couldn't compete with Dollar General. Well, the Dollar General was primarily funded by political elite individuals. People wanted to go out there and do that. They were doing favors for people. And my focus will be on providing fair and equal opportunity for small business owners to remain competitive and to stay in business.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, Scott, we need to wrap up quickly, but I wanted to give you the last question is a chance for a closing comment, or you can answer a question that we didn't ask that you wanted to answer.
Ultimately at the end of the day, although on paper and political resume, maybe I don't have it. I'm not a politician per se. So some people may be hesitant to look my way or cast my vote one way. I think a lot of that is political positioning. Don't vote for that because you're basically voting for that, throwing your vote away, those types of things. But ultimately what it comes down to is I'm just a regular guy that wants better for the state of Nebraska. I want to focus on making a Nebraska that my children and their children never feel like they have to leave for the economic and cultural experiences that they deserve and desire. They should never have to feel like they have to relocate to another state to live their best life. I will focus on being a true servant leader in the state, and I have literally no political agenda. I'm not going to, although I am registered as a libertarian, I am a Nebraskan first and foremost. And one of the greatest things about being a libertarian is that individualism is encouraged. So I won't see any backlash. I won't see any repercussions from those that support me because they want me to go out and be an individual, because that is our primary focus. We want to focus on individuals and making sure individuals have an opportunity to live their lives as long as they don't impede the ability of someone else to do so. They should be free to exist. So that's what we're at.
All right. Okay, got one last question. And this is off. Can you stand up like 1 foot? I just want to see your shirt.
Yeah, here, I'll put this down. This is my campaign stuff is a little unorthodox. Let's back up a little bit. back the beard, Zimmerman for governor. I got a nice little button here. We did all kinds of nice little marketing stuff for it. Again, I don't have the millions of dollars that are funneling through the old party system, and I've really tried. I haven't been asking for money. I do have some campaign contributions that come through, but I don't ask for it because I don't believe Nebraska voters should have to put a price on their vote. I think that people should be voting their conscience and vote for the person they best believe represents them, and not the person they just think has the most money or has the best chance to win.
You technically got in an extra answer, but I let that.
Sorry.
That was my own fault.
That's what I like about you, Dave.
Yeah, you've got the catchiest campaign shirt I've seen today. Everybody else was dressed rather with less flair.
Oh, I love
All
it.
right.
I love it. So thank you guys very much for including me in this process. Yeah, and I'm available if you guys have any follow-up questions or want to meet again. Just let me know and we'll work it around.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Martha, for joining us, Kent for being on. Especially thank you, Scott, for taking our questions. And with that, we are wrapped up. Thank
Pleasure was
you
mine.
all.
Thank you.
See ya.